The Obelisk Blue Girls' Dorm is a world of perfect refinement. The scent of fresh jasmine and expensive perfume lingers in the air, mingling with the ocean breeze that drifts through the open balconies. But beneath the soft silks and polished glass, the women of Obelisk Blue are anything but delicate. Once, noble women were expected to be ornaments, appendages to power rather than wielders of it. For centuries, they served in silence. Political masterminds, spies and assassins, and, of course, childbearers. But a century ago, the daughters of the most powerful families decided that enough was enough. In an unprecedented act of rebellion, the women of the kingdom's noble families came together and did something unexpected. They refused. Refused to advise, refused to manage, refused to serve. They argued that the exclusion of women was not just an injustice, it was a waste. How could the kingdom cultivate the strongest leaders while denying half of its own potential? The aristocracy learned a hard truth that day. Without the noble women, there would be no Midgard kingdom. Since then, the boundaries of power have shifted. Women inherit houses as rightful heirs, ruling openly, not just from the shadows. And the girls of Obelisk Blue carry that legacy forward. They are not delicate flowers meant for display. They are leaders, future warlords, and diplomats. They are graceful, poised, and utterly ruthless. But as the school year approached, Pegasus and Samajima faced an impossible challenge: finding someone fit to lead the Obelisk Blue Girls' Dorm. Thanks to Kronos' dead weight, whoever took this position would basically be running all of Obelisk Blue. They needed someone capable of gently tempering the worst impulses of the young tyrants without bruising their delicate egos. But paradoxically, they also needed someone respected by the investors, worthy enough to teach their children. In short, they needed someone who could navigate the halls of power without being corrupted by them. And of course, they needed a master in their field, someone with the skill worthy of the Duel Academy name. They needed a miracle. They needed Professor Emi Ayukawa. A tennis player from humble beginnings, Dr. Emi Ayukawa became the greatest athlete of her generation, perhaps in modern history. In high school, she suffered a spinal fracture, nearly ending her ascent before it began. In her hometown, injuries weren't setbacks, they were full stops. Without money for medical care, injuries had ended the careers of countless young hopefuls. But fate intervened. Ayukawa's performance at her last tournament caught the attention of a traveling doctor. He refused to let a talent like hers be buried by circumstance. He performed surgery free of charge, then stayed to train her through the brutal recovery. She never forgot him. After retiring, she went to medical school and became a doctor. But she was never satisfied at kingdom hospitals, where the people who needed her most, people like her younger self, were unable to afford her care. So, she founded Life Force, a personal training company. By day, she traveled to the homes of nobles, providing peak physical training. By night, she used the company's proceeds to provide free medical care to the commoners in their domains. She could have expanded, turning Life Force into a global powerhouse and rising to the ranks of the nobility. But she wanted to keep things small, on her own terms. But that meant that even as Ayukawa training became a mark of prestige in their circles, the noblewomen still treated her like the help. But she doesn't mind. She knows how to play their game. When Pegasus offered her the position of Professor of Physical Conditioning at Duel Academy, she surprised even herself by accepting. The school's story mirrored her own in a way that she couldn't ignore. Meant to exist so commoners could rise to greatness, but held back because it still needed funding from nobles. And, if she was being honest with herself, Duel Monsters had a pull that she hadn't felt in years. The old fire of competition calls to her, and she knows that she will always regret it if she doesn't answer. Asuka Tenjoin, heir to House Tenjoin, the wardens of the Yangtze Dominion. Asuka Tenjoin was raised to be flawless. With intellect, grace, and beauty, she is known across the world as the White Lotus of the Yangtze Dominion, the darling of the Midgard Kingdom. And for years, she embraced it. imagining a future where she would rule with wisdom and strength and bring honor to House Tenjoin. But she was lucky to have a brother who never fell for the illusion. Atticus Tenjoin was everything she wasn't. Reckless, unpredictable. He was the scandal of their house, who spent his nights drinking with commoners, and Asuka adored him. He was everything to her. One night, Atticus told her to follow him. They slipped away from the opulent halls of Chutianchang and into the village of Dongshaokou, a name she had only ever seen in population reports. They stepped into a celebration in full swing. The people drank like warriors after battle, loud, rough, freer than anyone in the noble courts. When a few spotted Atticus, they embraced him as their own. And to her shock, he became someone else entirely. Laughing and joking in their dialect, fluent in Mandarin words she had never been taught. Of course, Atticus belonged everywhere but where he was meant to. Then Atticus parted from the crowd and pulled her aside. He directed her attention to a banner hung above a row of medical tents, where the villagers had written the name of the celebration. She translated the Mandarin characters roughly to, "The day the pain stops." What does that mean? Something burned behind Atticus's eyes, a side of her goofy older brother that Asuka had never seen before. The people in these villages work 16-hour days in fields thick with pesticides to meet Dominion quotas. They start younger than you. By 30, their spines are warped, their lungs scorched, and their muscles are wasting away to malnutrition. But it only becomes a problem for mom and dad once it affects production. So once a year, our parents send doctors out to local villages to ensure that work can continue. The only time all year that these people receive health care. Not medicine, maintenance. Not for their sake, for ours. And yet, they celebrate it. They toast to the Archduke, to the foreign family who occupies their once proud nation, to the nobles who were gracious enough to hand them this tiny, humiliating mercy, because House Tenjoin has reduced them to so little that they can do nothing else. This is the system that our family rules over, the birthright we stand to inherit. Asuka learned that night that there was nothing noble about the nobility. It might have broken her, but she still had one thing left to believe in: Atticus. She watched him slip away at night to secret meetings with a vision of a better world. And he wasn't alone. Yusuke of House Fujiwara, his closest friend, stood beside him. For a time, Asuka believed the two of them would change the world. And then, one morning, they were gone. The prince didn't summon House Tenjoin, didn't demand explanations. There was only silence, a warning carved in absence, a quiet message to every noble house that power was not theirs to claim. Her parents searched, sending spies, pulling every string they had. Atticus and Yusuke had been taken to an island, subjected to horrific experiments. And then, the final blow. They were dead. Blinded by grief, House Fujiwara refused to accept it. They demanded answers, called for insurrection. The prince responded in blood. Their entire house, an ancient bloodline, wiped out in a single night. House Tenjoin is smarter. Asuka's parents have joined House Marufuji in plotting to topple the prince. They speak of power, of revolution, of Ryo and Asuka marrying to forge a new dynasty. But Asuka sees them for what they are, no different from the monsters they claim to fight. They never knew their son. Not really. Sweet Atticus, whose heart was so full, would have wanted nothing to do with their lust for the throne. Atticus's dream was dying before her eyes. Asuka refused to let it. She vowed to carry it forward in his name. From that moment, she trained relentlessly, sharpening herself into something stronger. She plays the role, the perfect noblewoman, the white lotus. But beneath it all, she vows to tear this system down. This path has led her to Duel Academy, to the very island where her brother was taken. She hopes that somewhere the truth of his fate lingers, and she's not alone. Once a week, in the dead of night, she meets someone at the Lighthouse, away from prying eyes. I saw your brother today, with that Slifer. He looked happy. I don't think I've ever seen Sho smile before. Don't make jokes. That kid is stunting Sho's growth. He will never learn the lessons I set for him if Judai Yuki keeps fighting his battles for him. Maybe your lessons aren't the problem. Maybe it's your methods? Ryo didn't answer, his way of ending the conversation. Asuka hated when he did that. Fine. What did you learn? Nothing. The general says that Pegasus has no memory of that time, no records, no sign that Atticus or Fujiwara were ever here. That's impossible. Can we trust him? Pegasus, I mean. The general seems to. That's enough for me. Ryo Marufuji, trusting powerful men who have every reason in the world to lie to him. What else is new? You've been making these comments for a while now. Speak plainly. You don't trust me? I appreciate your help with this, but I want to know whose side you're really on. You keep saying that you're not sure what the future will bring, but there's no mystery here. It's war, Ryo. That's the only future. We burned the Midgard kingdom down all the way to its roots. How can you know what we know, have seen what we've seen, and not understand that? Because I refuse to rush headfirst into a war without knowing what kind of world we'll have left when it's over. It's not about rushing. We don't have to go to battle tomorrow. We do have to be on the same page about what we're doing here. What do you know of war, Asuka? Of its horrors? What do I know? You talk like it's inevitable. Maybe it is. But let's not speak so flippantly about the deaths of millions of people. You're using all the right language, Ryo. But is that what you really mean? How do I know you're not still clinging to power? How do I know there isn't a side of you still holding on to your father's dream of a Marufuji sitting on the throne? Asuka, if you think for a second that Ryo stopped himself and took a breath. Atticus and Yusuke were my best friends. Were they? Were they, Ryo? Then why didn't they bring you in? Why didn't they trust you with their dream? Tell me they were wrong. I was a child. How could I have known the truth about the kingdom? How could you have if Atticus hadn't shown you? Silence. Finally, Asuka softened. I'm sorry for putting you through that. It's just, I can't afford blind faith, Ryo. Not anymore. I needed to be sure your heart was in the right place. But I do trust you. So what? This was a test? Full marks. Junko Jorimoto. Junko Jorimoto is the daughter of a retired kingdom pilot, raised in military bases and cramped apartments. She spent her childhood running through alleys and scuffed sneakers, fixing up old bikes, and listening to her father tell stories about the sky. Then, overnight, everything changed. Her father's dream became a reality, and Garuda Aviation soared into the stratosphere, supplying sleek private jets to the families of the elite. Suddenly, the Jorimoto family rose to the ranks of the nobility, and Junko was thrown into a world of etiquette lessons, designer clothes, and high society parties. But no matter how much they dressed her up, she still felt like an outsider. A girl with grease under her nails, more comfortable in a flight jacket than a ballroom gown. Some of the blue girls mock her behind her back. The boys treat her as a novelty, an exotic, rough-around-the-edges girl playing at their game. But Junko isn't here to impress them. She's here to prove that she belongs, not because of money or legacy, but because she's damn good at what she does. And if that means ruffling some feathers along the way, even better. But Junko has learned that not everyone in high society is a lost cause. She was lucky to meet two dear friends. The first is Asuka Tenjoin, the kingdom's golden girl, who Junko was sure would have a silver spoon in her mouth and a stick up her butt. But Asuka was different. She was kind, genuine in a disarming way. Someone who didn't just tolerate Junko's rougher edges, but welcome them. Junko knows that girl is hiding something though, but far be it from her to pretend to understand noble intrigue. The second friend that Junko met, perhaps more unlikely than the first, is none other than Momo Mizuhara of House Mizuhara, the Wardens of Oceania. Momo Mizuhara is a bubbly ball of joy. She hums while she walks, claps when she's excited, and gets distracted by anything cute within a 5-mile radius. Raised in the wild, untamed beauty of House Mizuhara's oceanic domain, she spent her childhood swimming through coral reefs, climbing trees, and tracking strange creatures through the deserts of Australia. She developed a deep love for animals. Not just the fluffy lapdogs or the elegant ones on the house sigils, although it says here that she wants me to make it very clear that she absolutely adores those too. But also the unsettling and misunderstood ones. Asuka has lost count of the times she's watched in horror as Momo gushes over how precious it is when some nightmare dismembers its meal. Junko has had to remind her too many times that cute and devours its mate after reproduction don't usually belong in the same sentence. And they've both learned to brace themselves whenever Momo starts a sentence with, "Did you know?" House Mizuhara are called the Guardians of the Sea, controlling vast fleets and serving as commanders in the Kingdom Navy. But while her brother was studying warfare and diplomacy, Momo was off trying to hand-feed a poisonous snake. She finds politics exhausting. She isn't dumb, she just doesn't care. For a long time, she was ashamed. After the Women's Revolution, noblewomen were supposed to dominate as warriors and business moguls. But Momo didn't want to dominate. She wanted a home where she could raise children, a husband who was kind and gentle, and a life surrounded by animals. She felt like a traitor to everything their foremothers fought for. Before they left for Duel Academy, she confessed to Asuka and Junko, expecting judgment, maybe even anger. Instead, Asuka smiled and said, "That sounds wonderful." And Junko threw an arm around her and laughed. "Hell yeah, Momo. You do you." Momo was shocked. Asuka and Junko explained that the fact that she knew who she was is exactly what they loved about her. She wasn't trying to climb the ladder of power, she was just Momo. Momo realized that maybe her foremothers didn't need her to dominate. Maybe they just wanted her to have the right to choose. Lately, Momo has started to hear a barking sound in her room. Junko must be planning to surprise her with a puppy. Momo has told Junko 1,000 times that she can just give up the act, but Junko swears that she doesn't know what Momo is talking about. It's been weeks now, and this game is getting old. Hand over the puppy, Junko. Ran Kochou, heir to House Kochou, the wardens of the Indus Vale. Power, true power, does not wear a crown. It does not stand before crowds and make proclamations. It's a whisper in the dark, a dagger in the back, a secret held in waiting. And no house understands that better than House Kochou. The men and women of House Kochou are the puppeteers of the Midgard Kingdom, the ones who know where every skeleton is buried, because they're the ones who put them there. Ran was not raised, she was crafted, taught to extract truth from liars, to turn enemies into assets, to wield smiles as effectively as daggers. But Ran is not like the rest of her house. She does not want to serve from the shadows. She wants to rule. And one day, she plans to use her family's proximity to the prince to put a dagger in his back. But Ran is patient. She does not lash out. She constricts. And her first prey is Asuka Tenjoin, the White Lotus, the darling of the kingdom's nobility. Ran has a secret. The spies of House Kochou were the ones who discovered Atticus's treachery, the ones who whispered his name in the prince's ear. But secrets are not meant to be wasted. She hopes to face Asuka in the tournament, where she can use this secret to break her. And then, when she's at her weakest, Ran will crush her, taking her place at the top of the Obelisk Blue Girls. And then she will come for the Kaiser and anyone else who stands in her way. Because one day, Ran Kochou will not need to whisper in the ears of kings. They will kneel before her instead.